Let's talk about Chelsea, bro. Because I feel like all day, probably the last few days, right? Chelsea. Whoever said that Chelsea don't got clout and Chelsea never gets talked about in the media, damn, the last few days have just completely proved that person wrong, man. Lost at the weekend. The biggest news to probably come from it was Raheem Sterling being left out of the starting 11. His team firing back right before the game saying that we feel like we're being left in the dark over this. We've been in constant conversation all summer with the club, and we're under the impression that we will still be at the club and we are excited for the next 3 years at Chelsea. Gets left out of the team. Chelsea lose. They complete the deal to bring Joao Felix back to the club a year and a half after having him on loan for those first 6 months. And now today, Enzo Maresca coming out in his press conference and saying Raheem Sterling is free to find another club. He's a good winger, but he's not my kind of winger. And I strongly urge him to go find another club because he won't be getting minutes under me. Echoed that same sentiment about Ben Chilwell. Gallagher today being unveiled by Atletico Madrid. And let's not forget probably the most damning thing of all, Raheem Sterling being stripped of his squad number and Pedro Neto taking it while Sterling is still at the club. Whew! It's a lot, man. It's a lot to break down. Let me say this first of all, and I said this on SDS. It was obviously the preview that they released on Twitter. I have to say, I didn't rate Sterling and his team and his management coming out before the game, basically questioning why Sterling was not left in the squad. I didn't rate that whatsoever. Because I have to say, if you are in a first team squad, right, there is no God-given right for you to get minutes at that club. You have to earn it. You have to be in the manager's plans. The manager picks the team. He's the very first thing that a manager does on match day is pick his squad, pick his 11 players, and pick his bench. That's his job, and it's up to him whether you agree with it or not. Now, the conversation for me, especially on SDS, was never, is Sterling good enough to be on Chelsea's bench or even start for Chelsea? Because personally, yeah, I would say he's still a good enough player to be playing for Chelsea in some capacity. But forget about is he good enough or that's irrelevant in this case. Enzo Maresca has come to Chelsea. He's a young manager, or he's a novice, not novice manager, right? But he is a novice manager in the grand scheme of things. His experience at top level football management is not that big. He's managed at Leicester. He's managing now for Chelsea. He's come to a team which is a massive squad, players that he really had no say in buying, and he has to basically create the perfect concoction and get this team winning football games. And quite simply, if he doesn't think that Raheem Sterling is part of that plan, that's on the manager. In my opinion, Raheem Sterling can be upset about it, sure, but the solution, go work harder in training, put your head down, and just hope that you make the next one. That's the game, bro. Not everyone can play. Especially when you have like 40 players in the team. Definitely not everybody can play. So I didn't rate whatsoever Raheem Sterling kind of coming out or his team coming out and issuing that statement. However, and I stand by that 3-4 days later. However, I also don't rate whatsoever the way Chelsea have kind of gone forward with this. Because in my opinion, if you employ a player, there's basic rights for each the club and the player. For the club pays wages. In my opinion, he should be allowed to train with the first team. But the club have again, gun to their head to say Raheem Sterling must play for Chelsea. He's part of the team. He trains. He has a dressing room place. He's part of the squad. He has a squad number. But there's nothing that says the manager has to play him. That is something he has to earn, and that is something that he has to convince the manager about. On the flip side, Raheem Sterling, again, doesn't have that God-given right to play. But also, in my opinion, if you're part of the first team squad, there's basic human rights, in my opinion, that you have to give every single player. In my opinion. Of course, now, do they have to abide by that? No, but for as long as I've been watching football, 99% of clubs abide by this kind of way of thinking. You're allowed to train with the team. You have a spot in the dressing room. You're in the first team squad. You can eat meals with the first team squad. You have a squad number, and you are up for selection. And for Chelsea, before the transfer window even closes, with Raheem Sterling having 3 years left on his deal and him earning upwards of like $250K a week plus, to say Sterling will now no longer train with the first team. We're going to rip his squad number off of him and he's free to find another club or else he won't play here. I can't lie, chat. In my opinion, I don't think that's how you should treat first team players. I don't think so. And it's not only just me who thinks that. Most football clubs operate like this. I already see someone saying, what do you mean basic human rights? He's on $325K a week. You guys paid him the $325K a week. This is why I go back to the Gallagher thing too. Is Chelsea within their rights to sell Sterling or not view him in their plans? Yes. But you can't complain about wages or say, oh, we have to get his wage. You gave him the wages. You gave him the 5-year contract. No one forced a gun to your head to give you those Raheem Sterling that long of a contract and give him those wages. And when you give him those wages and you give him that contract, in my opinion, And again, this is also based on how most football clubs operate. Yes, you can want to sell him after a while. It didn't work out for Sterling. I would never argue that. Sterling hasn't been good enough for Chelsea over the 2 years. I would never argue that. And you're well within your rights to ask Sterling to look for suitors and go say, does any club want stuff? That's fine. But while he's still your employee, in my opinion, you should treat him like a first-team player. And snatching his squad number off of him, sending him to go train with the reserves, that for me is not treating him like a first-team player. That's treating him like an asset. And this is my biggest issue with Chelsea Football Club at the moment. It's not how many players they're buying and how big their squad is, because in my opinion, that's starting to get overplayed. Bro, a lot of teams have big squads, especially when you go from goalkeeper number 1 all the way to the youth team. You can make a squad of 50 for most teams in the Premier League. That's not my issue. Chelsea, you can go buy as many players as you want. I don't care. However, when you buy those players with the idea that they're an asset, that the hope is they are there to kind of build value so you can flip and bring money in. And when you don't want them, you can kind of just throw them to the curb. The way you're kind of treating these players right now, that's where I have an issue. By all means, buy as many players as you want. But I don't like, from a human point of view, how a lot of the players that Chelsea are kind of just deciding are no longer in their plans, they're treating them. It's not just Raheem Sterling, right? But I look at even like the kids like David Washington, or not David Washington, the guy that Datro Fofana that got sent out to Burnley. I think he was at Union Berlin the first half of the season. Casade, who was at Leicester last season. These players that Chelsea got with the intention, again, there was no intention of them ever making it into the first team unless they ended up being super talents. But they get them a year or two, send them out on loan a few times, and hope to flip them for 8 million profit. And I see a lot of people saying, oh, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? From a financial point of view, there's nothing wrong with that. Chelsea are not stupid here. I actually think what they're doing from a financial perspective, fair enough. They're treating these players like assets, and they're getting exactly what they want from it. So in that sense, their plan is working. But why are football fans trying to advocate for that? What the hell does that mean to you guys? What do you benefit from Chelsea Football Club buying a player for 4 million and selling him for 8? What do you personally benefit from that? You're a football fan. You support the players, you support the club. I don't understand that, bro. I honestly cannot grasp that way of thinking. They get 4 million. Yeah, the club gets 4 mil profit. What do you as a fan get from that? And I get every fan wants to back their club. They want to be optimistic about their club. They want to believe that what their club is doing and that the plan long-term will work. I understand that. I'm not trying to say, yo, go to Chelsea games and just boo. Obviously, you want to believe that your team is doing things well, but you don't also have to be a sheep. You don't have to be blinded by everything your club does and agree with everything they do and try and argue everything they're doing. You can also have a mind for yourself and look at what Chelsea have done in the last 3 years and say, look, man, I tried seeing the benefit of it. I tried seeing that this was a good thing that was going to help my club on the pitch. But realistically, bar benefiting Chelsea from a financial point of view, is this whole flipping assets method that Chelsea are undergoing for the last 3 years now, is that actually benefiting Chelsea from a results point of view? Is it actually benefiting Chelsea, the football club, or is it benefiting Chelsea, the financial institution? In my opinion, it's benefiting the latter. And you're saying I'm not complaining because all the players I want gone are leaving, but what happens when it's the players that you want? What happens then? For me, I don't know, bro. Like, the Sterling thing, again, I have no issue with Chelsea wanting to sell Raheem Sterling. He hasn't been, in my opinion, anywhere near good enough to justify the wages that they gave him. But at the same time, if you can't, and here's another thing too, right? You're stripping Sterling of his shirt number. What's the guarantee that Raheem Sterling finds a club between now and the end of the window? What's the guarantee? The guy's on $325K a week. He's got 3 years left on his contract, and he doesn't want to go. What's the guarantee that another club goes and matches those wages or even matches anywhere near those wages and gives him the years he wants? What's the guarantee? Especially now when Chelsea have come out and saying, he's not in our plans whatsoever. We're stripping him of his shirt number. You've depreciated his value. He wants to leave now because you guys have treated him like shit. Let's keep it a buck. His team didn't come out a few days ago because he wanted to leave then. His team came out and said, we are fully intending to stay at Chelsea for the next 3 years. Of course now he wants to leave. But what's the guarantee that you can get money from Raheem Sterling between now and the end of the window? What happens if you don't sell Sterling? Now you have a guy on $325K a week, rotting in your reserves without a shirt number. And what does that say now for future players? Or players that, I don't know, Raheem Sterling is cool with. Or players that respect Raheem Sterling. I can't lie, that's not a good look. Believe in your football club all you want. Try and see the benefit of what your club is doing. I'm not trying to tell you be a negative Chelsea fan. I'm not trying to say that. But objectively also, try and look at the situation and ask yourself, is this really the best way Chelsea Football Club could be operating? I don't think so. Again, you saying his statement is crazy is ridiculous. What did he say in his statement that was crazy? For me, his statement was ridiculous. Not because, I just don't think you can complain if a manager doesn't pick you. The manager, it's the manager's choice. I echoed this when Ten Hag didn't pick Sancho. I echoed this when Ten Hag didn't want to pick Ronaldo. The manager's say in picking his team is final. You have to respect that. But at the end of the day, what's the incentive for that player? Okay, return to training the next week, work your socks off, and prove to him that you should be in the next squad. Completely banishing. And by the way, this is a player, Sterling, that actually had a decent preseason for Chelsea. I'm not saying he lit the world up, but he had a decent preseason. It seemed like he was in Maresca's plans. And now all of a sudden, he's gone from basically here to the bottom. I don't know, man. Wait, this financial statement is so bad. We're acting like profitability and good results cannot go hand in hand. The 25-player squad is what produces the results, not the extra players. But you guys aren't getting the results. Where are the results? That's my whole thing. Here's the thing, right? If Chelsea were winning football games, no one would be complaining. No, and by the way, I'm not complaining here. This isn't my football club. I'm just observing and giving my opinion. But nobody would be criticizing Chelsea and their methodology and how they've approached the last few windows if they were a successful football club on the pitch. No one would be doing it. Let's make that very clear. Because let's not act like Abramovich was doing everything perfectly in his tenure. But guess what? His football club were extremely successful. And the fact is, Chelsea, under this ownership, under Clearlake, have not been successful on the pitch to basically warrant and justify the way they've been operating off the pitch. And that's why me saying I believe Chelsea Football Club are being run more as a financial asset rather than a football club, I don't think I'm being harsh in saying that. It's been 2 seasons where they inherited scrubs. Let's even talk about these scrubs, right? Who are the scrubs that Chelsea inherited? The scrubs that Chelsea inherited were a team that, when they got purchased, had just come off a top 4 season, 2 years ago had just won the Champions League, and we're a squad that were going toe-to-toe against Real Madrid in the Champions League. Wow, what a terrible squad. What a terrible squad. The revisionism of history when Clearlake bought Chelsea Football Club to now, people are acting like Clearlake bought, I don't even know, Millwall. Bro, you guys they bought a club that had numerous Champions League winners, allowed 2 of them in Rudiger and Christensen to leave for free, and what they've replaced them with is a team that have finished worse and worse and worse. They've replaced them with players costing £100 million plus in some instances, 80 million in the form of Mudryk, 60 million in the form of Cucurella. And what have those players done in return? To be fair, I think Cucurella was actually the window just before Clearlake. Or was it that one? No, I actually think Cucurella was Clearlake summer as well too. So correct me, excuse me in that as well too. But this whole squad of scrubs that you bought, you have spent £1 billion, and is the squad that you have today much better than the one that Thomas Tuchel had in his last season there. I'm not even talking about the Aubameyang one. I'm not even talking about the likes of Lukaku. The core of the squad, when Clearlake bought it compared to now, we're acting like now. We're gonna act like now it's night and day. I beg to differ. They weren't good. Let's not lie. This team is better now. I don't know if I agree. If you guys really think that the likes of Enzo and Caicedo and Nkunku and Nico Jackson and who else do you guys have now? Levi Colwell, to be fair, he's from the academy. If these guys are night and day to who did you guys have at that time? Jorginho and Kovacic and Mount. I'm sorry, chat. Rudiger, Christensen. Who else did you guys have back there? Azpilicueta. To be fair, Chilwell, he's been on decline 100%. If you guys think that this team is night and day to that team, I don't agree. Personally, I don't agree. And this is not a biased thing. I don't think that team was the best team on the planet either. But I don't think you guys have upgraded night and day. I don't agree. And that's even just my opinion. Lyes is gassing Werner, Kante, or Werner, Mount, and Havertz. I'm not gassing them. But I'm also not going to gas Nico Jackson, Madueke, Enzo Fernandez. I'm not going to gas them either. What? Because they cost a lot of money and they're bigger names. I have to gas them and act like it's night and day. Those guys haven't done anything different to this point to what those players did either. I'm sorry, that's a fact.
They have.
What have they done?
They ain't won the Champions League.
Bro, what? Werner, Havertz, and Mount. You cannot rate any of those guys. But the answer now is Nico Jackson, Madueke, Mudryk. Sue me. Sue me. Come on, bro. Palmer, great signing. Palmer is keeping the ship afloat. Nkunku, what has Nkunku done at Chelsea? Missed the whole season through injury. And when he's played, has he lit the world up on fire? He's still got a lot to prove himself. Or are we going to base him completely off what he did in the Bundesliga? Because if that's the case, then you shouldn't be too harsh on Havertz or Timo Werner, bro. And this isn't even me trying to be a defender of those kinds of players. I have no issue if Chelsea wanted to get rid of those players. But don't try and sell me this process that Clearlake has done with the current squad that you guys have. Please don't try and do that. I wasn't born yesterday, bro. Pedro Neto, Felix, Nkunku, and Palmer, and man said Madueke. Has Joao Felix done anything better than Madueke at Chelsea? Bro, I'm telling you guys, I don't know what's happened to Chelsea fans in the last few years. Because honestly, this fan base is never one that I ever thought would kind of become the one I'm seeing these days. The infatuation with big name players that have done absolutely nothing for your football club, and this infatuation with riding whatever Clearlake says and does, no matter what. I'm sorry, this is honestly something I expected to see from Arsenal fans. Never from Chelsea fans, bro. It's embarrassing, bro. How can you say don't bring up Madueke? Why didn't you bring up Joao Felix? What the hell is Joao Felix? What has he done for your club? What's he done? Let me even bring up Joao Felix, right? Because he's the other part of this conversation. A player that was at Chelsea a few years ago for 6 months, came in with massive hype. To be honest with you, even myself, I was looking at Joao Felix at that point in his career and saying, this could be a move. He was struggling at Atletico Madrid at the time. This could be a move that really revitalizes his career. And he came in the same window as Enzo Fernandez, the same window as Mudryk, the same window as Badiashile, the first major Clear Lake window, if you want to call it that, when everybody was super hyped about the business that they were doing. And just like most of those guys, Joao Felix had his moments, had his little flashes of brilliance, and ultimately, for me, disappointed. I said at the end of that window, at the end of that season, Joao Felix for me was the biggest transfer disappointment of the entire summer, because the expectation that he kind of came into Chelsea, people were saying this could finally be the team that unlocks him, and Simeone was holding him back. Let's be real, bro. He had a few good moments. Joao Felix was extremely disappointing at Chelsea the first time around. And I think he's actually lucky to get this move 2 years later for what, 50 million, 45 million. I think he's very fortunate. And I still question, where does he fit into this team? It's another signing for me that, again, look, Chelsea fans are going to get excited about it because he's flashy and he's got good feet. Joao Felix is a technically gifted player. But his actual impact on a football pitch to this point in his career is pretty minimal. It's pretty minimal. And I also look, where does he fit in when Nkunku already kind of plays that same kind of role? It's questionable for me, bro. Felix as a star player isn't good, but as a luxury player is a good buy. Okay, so Chelsea, who are still trying to figure out their best 11, still don't have the core of their team basically figured out. Or if you do have it figured out, it's not convincing. You want to add a 50 million pound luxury player to that team. Look, man, I hope Joao Felix works out because I believe in talent and I think he is a technical player. But this is a player that up to now in his career, bar that first season at Benfica, I would say, has almost never been able to show you a consistent guy that can impact football clubs for a positive. Like I said, I don't want Chelsea fans to have to be negative about their team. I'm not trying to tell you guys, oh, shit on everything Chelsea do. But for me, and I think Enzo Maresca is a talented coach, and I actually hope for his own sake that he comes out of this alive because it's a tough job, bro. It's a tough job, man, honestly. At the end of the day, only time can prove things right. Let Maresca play out the season. We'll see. Bro, Chelsea could have a successful season this year. Chelsea could come 4th or 5th or 6th. I don't know where they're going to come. I have them finishing around 4th to 6th. That's where I have them finishing. But it's not about Maresca here. This is not me taking shots at Maresca. I think Maresca is within his right to decide Sterling's not in his... I don't have an issue with that. And I hope, for his own sake, he comes out of the season alive because it's the toughest job he'll ever have in his life. I'm speaking about the way Chelsea are operating as a football club. And for me, not even out of agenda. I don't have an agenda against Chelsea Football Club. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. Bro, Chelsea fans have become so defensive. They used to be the most ruthless club in fan base. That's what I'm saying, bro. I cannot believe. And I don't know. I can't. I'm not saying all Chelsea fans are like this because I'm sure there's some that I've seen a lot of Chelsea fans, for example, say they feel like disillusioned with the club. They don't feel like as connected to the club as they used to. So I'm not trying to say everyone is like this, but I'm seeing so many on social media, for example. I don't know. I think it's because of the transfer dopamine, bro. Honestly, I feel like the new age fans are so hooked on here we goes and who is my club signing and oh, we're signing Joao Felix. Like, bro, if it doesn't result to your team being better on a football pitch, that little dopamine rush is going to last you like a month maybe. You acting like we have bums, Lyes. I'll tell you what, right? I don't think you guys have bums. I don't think Chelsea have a bad squad. But I will say this. Your squad in terms of value for money, I think is horrible. What is Chelsea's, their best match day squad, how much is it worth? You're talking about 700 mil to a bill. And for me, value for money, they're worth nowhere near that. They're worth nowhere near that. For the amount of money they've spent for their best match day squad on any given day, I'm sorry. I don't think they've bought great value-wise. I don't think so. Lyes, one thing about Chelsea is when they recognize they made a mistake, they don't hold on to players. Most players from the first transfer window under Clear Lake are gone. More money, therefore, is going to be spent. Bro, that's fine, but the issue is they make so many mistakes that they're just basically... It's like a cycle with them, bro. It's like a cycle. Mudryk will be the next to go. They're going to buy another guy that inevitably they end up spending 80 million on. He's not going to work. Then they're going to want to get him out and force him out of training. It's just a vicious cycle, bro. Their recruitment is poor. Yes, that's money on talent. I don't think the talent is that great, bro. I'll be real. Like, there's a few guys that I really rate that Chelsea have bought. I think Neto is a top player. Cole Palmer obviously speaks for itself. Who else do you got? I think Fofana's a really good center back. Bro, like, you can talk to me about talent of Caicedo. Caicedo's not a 115 million pound player. You're telling me Caicedo is worth 65 million pounds more than Amadou Onana. And I don't think either of them are world beaters. That's not value for money. And you can talk to me about talent all you want. You don't have to spend 115 million pounds to get talent. Come on, bro. Lavia, good player. Nkunku, we'll see with him, bro. I'll be real. And Nkunku, for me, seems like another player that needs a very specific environment to kind of thrive in. And I don't know if he's going to find that at Chelsea. Malo Gusto, Good fullback. He's actually one of your better businesses, to be fair. Anyways, look, Chelsea fans cannot bully me. Chelsea fans cannot try and like overwhelm me here. At the end of the day, I give my thoughts on every single club, like it or not. If I was making content on Chelsea 10 years ago, bro, I would be waxing lyrical about them. Some of my favorite players to ever play the game played for Chelsea. So if you think it's a Chelsea agenda thing, I'm sorry. You guys got to get out your feelings, bro. But at the current moment, I'm sorry. You guys are being run like a joke, in my opinion. Seriously. And if it's a third successive year without making the Champions League and you guys are still lapping up this shit that this ownership is trying to sell you, if this group of players, this squad that has now come to close to £1 billion in terms of how much you've spent on it, again, under another manager who's probably, if you guys don't make top four, going to have to face the sack. If it doesn't work a third year in a row, I'm very, very intrigued. What's going to be the reaction then? Who are you guys going to blame then? Is it going to be Enzo Maresca that we blame? Oh, is Enzo Fernandez going to be the next guy that you guys have to basically sell and banish from training and strip him of his squad number to go buy the next big thing? And it's going to be... I'm very interested to see it. Good luck to Chelsea. Good luck to Raheem Sterling. I don't know where he's going to end up. I really don't know how Chelsea are going to manage to offload Raheem Sterling because I don't know who's going to take him for those wages. And good luck to Joao Felix as well too. But in my opinion, I'm not really envious of the position Chelsea are in at the moment. And for a club that have spent this much money, you would expect every single fan base on the planet to be envious. When you spend this much money that they have and brought in this many players, in my opinion, you should be talking about a team in a much healthier position when it comes to football than they actually are. Financially, congratulations to Clear Lake. Congratulations to Clear Lake. You guys have made crazy profit on teenagers that we'll never hear about, and I'm very happy for you guys. But from a footballing perspective, for the money Chelsea has spent, I'm not envious, and I don't think any fan base is of that football club at the moment. And for me, that's crazy to even say.